All right, guys, for today's practice, I'm going to ask you to do something extremely difficult. You need to take, are you ready? You need to take a piece of paper and you need to fold it into thirds. I know that's a ridiculously difficult thing for me to ask of you. But as soon as you let go of the idea that your thirds have to be super equal and realize that they don't have to be, and that's okay, then it becomes not so bad. So we're going to take this paper and we're going to fold it into thirds. All right, so to fold the paper in thirds, we're just going to kind of eyeball this, but I like to start at the bottom and I like to kind of fold, and actually the 3-hole punches can help you a little bit. This will give you enough space. If you fold from the bottom up, and you see how I lined up those holes right there? So I'll show you that again. If I come from the bottom, and I'm going to line up these 2 holes. And if you don't have the 3-hole punches to guide you, it's okay. Just kind of eyeball some space. I'm going to put my first fold there, and you'll see that this is not really thirds because this top part is bigger, but that's okay. But now what I'm doing is I'm taking the top and I'm just folding it down to match the bottom fold. Again, it's not going to be an even thirds, but it's close enough. So if you need to watch that again, rewind it and watch it again, but I folded the bottom up to match the holes, and then I folded the top down to match the fold, and now I have enough spaces. So I want all of this top space here, all of this middle space for another problem, and all this bottom space for another problem. So what I'm going to write on the top, and it's good that the top has a little extra space because then I can put a title. So what I'm going to put on the top is writing and solving. And this practice is equations and inequalities. So this is really putting everything together from this standard. We're practicing today, and then we're going to do a practice test tomorrow, and then we're also going to take a test on this tomorrow. So this entire thing is all about the real life problems, writing and solving equations and inequalities. So I put a title, and I'm going to put number 1 here, number 2 here, in all of that middle space, number 3 here in this bottom space. And then I'm going to flip my paper over. I'm going to put number 4, number 5, and number 6. Now to work through these, you are going to use, you're going to be writing things on your piece of paper, and you're going to be clicking through a Google slide that will help you verify whether or not you're getting things correct. So let me switch to the Google slide, and I'm going to help you through number 1, and I'm going to switch back and forth between the Google slide and this paper so that you guys can see what you should be writing and how to work through the Google slide. So this is the Google slide in your Canvas. If you just scroll down under this video, you'll see it. And it says, writing and solving inequalities. Okay, so, and it's actually both, but we're going to click here to start. Okay, number 1 says, read the story. You want to take some friends to the zoo. Your mom says you cannot spend more than $100 to take them. If each ticket costs $15 and you pay $10 for parking, how many people can you take to the zoo? So the first thing you're supposed to do, what it says up in this top corner here, is it says assign a variable. That's always step number 1 on these. And so what these Google slides do is they break it down to every part, but don't just start clicking and get all excited about clicking. You also need to be writing everything down so that you can submit photos of your work. So as I read this story, before I even look at these options, because this kind of makes it multiple choice, the way that this Google slide is set up, the number 1 tip I can give you with math and multiple choice is pretend it's not multiple choice for a minute and just write down your answer as if there were no options given to you. So I'm not even going to look at these options yet. I'm just going to read this again. The question here says, how many people can you take to the zoo? If that's your question, remember that's also your variable. So I'm going to write down on my paper right now, and you should write this too, x equals, how many people can you take to the zoo? Okay, so x equals number of people. And instead of, sharing and going back and forth, just look up here in the corner and you can see that I wrote that down on my paper. X equals number of people. So I got that written down. Now I come back to this Google slide and I look for that and I say, oh, there it is, X equals number of people. But I want you to see what happens if you're not really paying attention and just clicking around, or if you read it the wrong way. Let's say I chose this weird option that X is number of moms. Click it, oops, try again. That means you did not pick the right thing, and you click here and it will take you right back to that question in order to try again. But we know, of course, it's not number of moms, it's number of people. So I'm going to click on X equals number of people, and you'll know you got it correct if it says the next step. So I clicked X is number of people, and now I'm ready to move on to the next step. So this is the same question, so it just says it again over here. This is the exact same problem through the whole thing. But now it's telling you to write an inequality. Again, before I even look at these options, I'm going to write this down on my piece of paper. So I'm going to look through this info now. If X is the number of people, read through all this stuff over here and tell me which number is going to go along with the number of people. Is it $100 per person, $15 per person, or $10 per person? Oh, each ticket costs $15. That's the per person. So here's what I'm writing on my paper right now that you should also be writing on your paper. 15X. See, look up in the corner here. See that? I just wrote 15X in green right there. And then it's also $10 for parking. So I'm writing 15X plus 10. And your mom says you cannot spend more than 100. Sometimes you guys read this too quickly and you think more than, and your brain automatically goes to greater than. But she says you can't spend more than 100. That means you're allowed to spend less than or equal to 100. So see that right there? See my green inequality that I wrote down? You should also have that written down. And then as soon as you have it written down, now you can look over here at these options. Look really closely. They're kind of tricky. They all look very similar. 15X plus 10. Ooh, this looks really close. Ooh, but that says greater than or equal to. If you click that one, your mom's like, oops, try again. You don't get to spend more than $100. You have to spend less than. This one right here. So these two say less than, but this one has X on the wrong one. 10X would be $10 per person. That's not what it is. It's $15 per person. So here we are. So I click this and I'll know I got it right because it lets me move on to the next step. Solve it. You want to take some friends to the zoo. Oh, this is the exact same question. Here's what I'm doing now. I'm going to take you back to my work here. This part needs to be written down on your paper. So here's my inequality that I wrote down. Before I look at any of those options given to me, here's my inequality. I'm now ready to start solving it. You ready? You should have all this written down, and now you're writing this part with me. Minus 10, minus 10. We know how to solve these. We've done it a bunch of times now. That turns to 0, which is exactly what I wanted. 15X is less than or equal to 90. Now I go divide by 15, divide by 15. I do not need to reverse the symbol because I didn't divide by a negative. So this solution here is X is less than or equal to, and you can type it in calculator if you need to, but 90 divided by 15 is 6. X is less than or equal to 6. Okay, so if I go back to my Google slide now, I can see that that is certainly one of the options here. Ooh, be careful. Is it this one? Oops, no, try again. Because that says greater than or equal to, and we got X is less than or equal to. So I click this one. And it's going to say, hooray, you did it. And this is the same question, but I want you to notice, don't just click and move on. You're not quite done. You have to write one more thing down on your piece of paper. And I'm going to be looking for these when you submit your photos of your work. It says on your paper, write out what your solution means in the context of the story. Go ahead, write it down. What are they talking about? What my solution means in the context of the story? Well, the story is still sitting right there on your Google slide. I put it on every slide as you work through for that reason, so that you have it right there. This needs to now be connected back to this. If X is the number of people, what this answer means is you can bring 6 people or less to the zoo. That's what that last part means when it says, write down on your paper, connect your answer back to the question. So once you've gotten that written down, Now you're ready to go back to your Google slide and make sure, again, make sure you wrote that all down before you just click on. Now it says when you're finished, click here to move on to problem 2. You're ready to click there and start this process again. So we just went through 1 all together. You're now going to do 5 more, number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then when you're all done with this, and you'll know when it gets to the end, when you're all done with this, you're gonna submit a photo of the front and the back of your paper for today's points. If you get stuck anywhere, have any questions, please let me know.